for giving me this opportunity to present this work at this very nice conference. So this is a real collaborative work with, it starts with, as I will say, with the experiment of Eric, of course the work of Svetlana also, and back in France. So I'm coming from Bordeaux. This is one of the pictures of the town. There is a famous square there. And it is done with Philippe Alvic, who is also in Bordeaux, and Majdi Ochlaf, who is in Paris, and who you probably know. No? Okay. So everything started with the experiment of Eric. Which he presented yesterday, not in detail. He passed all the detail because it's a very complicated experiment. But and he started, in fact, in Bordeaux back in 2013 when Svetlana came to the Quantum Reactive Scattering Conference, which was organized there, and she proposed me to work on that. Well, at that time already the paper of Eric was published, showing for the first time that vibrational cooling of a diatomic molecule was possible by sympathetic cooling. It is the first and only, I think, at the moment, system for which it was demonstrated. So when she asked me to do some vibrational quenching atom-diatom calculation, well, I said yes. It seemed to be very simple, and I didn't think too much before accepting, and I probably should have, because it's, well, we will see. I will just remind a few points how the choice of this system was done by Eric. So, as mentioned by many people during the conference, to get rid, to cool down a molecule using laser cooling is really difficult. It's at the moment it is only possible for a few systems, a few specific systems, so it's not possible. And the direct cooling method, like stark deceleration and buffer gas cooling, they produce cold molecule, but at relatively warm temperature, so it cannot be used. On the other side, molecular ions are really nice because they are easily trapped for many minutes, and there are more possibilities for cooling them than for neutral molecule. And cooling of molecular ions has been demonstrated through sympathetic cooling collision with both cold helium buffer gas and laser-cooled atomic ions, but neither of these methods can simultaneously produce both ultra-cold and internal ground state molecules. Sympathetic cooling of molecular ions via co-trapped laser-cooled other ions, atomic ions, cannot produce internal state relaxation because of the long-range nature of the Coulomb interaction between the two ions. So this is, of course, better to use cold neutral atoms. So when one chooses also the system, one has to be careful about one point, is that of course, charge exchange can occur. So in our case, it's okay, as the ionization potential of BaCl is lower than the one of calcium. So in the experiment, BaCl plus is produced by laser ablation of BaCl2, and they are then trapped in the linear quadrupole ion traps, which is collocated. But yeah, I remind you, all these things showed yesterday. So the calcium atoms are then loaded in the magneto-optical trap, which is nearby. In the beginning, the translational temperature produced by laser ablation of BaCl plus is around 1000 Kelvin. And the internal temperature thermalized to 300 Kelvin due to black body radiation. So additional translational cooling is done by sympathetic cooling with co-trapped laser-cooled Ba plus ions first, and the MOTs then turn on, and short-range collision with the calcium atom results in internal cooling. So this is a technique after just to follow the population of the vibrational states. So the first thing to do is, of course, to check that it is a purely inelastic system and not a reactive one, because it's still possible. So, as said by Eric yesterday, if we are in the fundamental electronic state of calcium, it is okay. Effectively, it's completely endothermic. But as you can see, if we start from the first excited state, it is not anymore true, and things are a lot more complicated. So here we are in this case. And things start to be a bit more complicated, at least for a theoretician, is the fact that we have to treat 92 electrons. So we have to. So don't worry, I will not detail all the method used for the calculation, and it is not my work. It's mainly the work of Philippe Alvik and Majdi Oshlaf. But what is important to realize is that even for such a simple system like that, we needed to use more than 10,000 points, because we need to describe both, of course, the vibration of BaCl+, and also because we have a very strong long-range potential, we have to describe the potential correctly up to a large value of the intermolecular coordinates. And we have even to treat, which is a bit unusual, the variation of the dipole moment of the diatom, diatomic ion, and also of the polarizability. If we want, we need a very accurate long-range potential. So this is the potential energy surface. So first, as you can see, the well depth is almost 1 eV. So it's really unusual. It's almost a chemical bond which is formed. It's really intermediate between a van der Waals and a chemical bond. And here it is represented for the equilibrium distance of BaCl+ inside the complex. But now, so you see also that it is quite anisotropic. But now, if we represent it now for the free distance of BaCl+, you see that we are 1,000 centimeter minus 1 above the minimum of the surface. So you see immediately that, of course, this surface will couple a lot the vibrational state of BaCl+. It's unusual, huh? Yes, there are other systems like CH+, where it is like that, helium CH+, but usually there is not such a strong difference. So here it is a representation of the vibration. So here it is for the equilibrium angle of the complex. So now that we have a potential energy surface, we can think a bit more about the dynamics calculation. So BaCl+ has also a great inconvenience, for us at least, is that the vibrational frequency is very small. You know that for a diatom, usually it's between 2,000, 3,000. The usual one, most of the diatom have a vibrational frequency in this range. So, and the rotational constant is also extremely small. So you will couple a lot of rotational state and a lot of vibrational state inside the well. The polarizability of the calcium atom is enormous also. So it is going to make also some difficulties, because we will have to propagate very far away. Because also the relative mass is quite large, we will need also to get to propagate many value of the total angular momentum of the system. And also because we have a strong variation of the potential, we need to use a small step for the propagation. And so you need to propagate matrices which are as big as 10,000 by 10,000, around 1 centimeter minus 1, which is extremely unusual. That's the kind of matrices that you get for when you treat such kind of system at high energy, but not in this range of energy. So the calculations are very heavy, and they are so heavy that one cannot do them, in fact. One has to use some special tricks. So one could be tempted to use, of course, the usual approximation, infinite order sudden approximation, or coupled state approximation. But if we look at the prerequisites to their use, for example, for the IOSAs, rotational spacing has to be negligible compared to collision energy. So here it will work above 10 centimeter minus 1, so no. The well depth has to be small compared to the collision energy, as the closed channel coupling can be very important. So the well depth is almost 1 eV, so you can imagine that in this range of energy, no way. For the coupled state approximation, it works for repulsive potential, or for rotor states whose relative kinetic energy are large compared to the well depth. So it cannot work neither here. So we need to do the closed coupling calculation. So to do that, what we used several tricks which we didn't invent. It was proposed long ago to do such kind of things. Simply, the potential is expanded in power of the stretching distance, and we use only 10 polynomials. So these 10 monomials, it is better than to use 100 DVR points. Of course, we gain a factor 10 at least. And also we had to write an MPI version of our code over the energy to be able to run the calculation. Another thing is that we didn't use the same convergence criterion for all the collision energy. At the lowest energy, we take this criterion, and at the highest, around 1 centimeter minus 1, because it lasts forever. Huh? So, and even with this criteria, we need value of total angular momentum as big as 74. So now, what can we expect of, what kind of accuracy can we expect from this kind of potential energy surface? So here I have put some advertisement of some recent work that we did to show that really at the moment for a simple system like so atom-diatom system or diatom-diatom system, really one reach the spectroscopic accuracy. So for this system, or here, I don't know if you can see, but here it is the error between the calculation and experiment, and we are at less than 10 minus 2 centimeter minus 1 for the bond state. So we can expect that. And what about the cross-section, the inelastic cross-section, the resonance? So here I have put some other system. It is D2CO, and here it is a comparison with the cross-beam experiment in Bordeaux of Michel Coste. So it's one of the first systems for which inelastic cross-section were measured in this range of energy. So you will tell me, well, we are a lot above the range of energy we are interested in, but already it's a good information. So here it is D2CO, and also we have some for here for H2CO. That's some system we treated also some time ago. So now, what are the results for calcium BaCl+? So after some time, the first thing that you can do immediately is that we have several regimes, of course, the Wigner regime, and then the Langevin regime. So here you have quantum suppression, which show up, so it decreases. And what is really important, so here it is the initial state of BACL+. So here it is nu equal 1, here it is nu equal 2. And what you can see, and which is really unusual for this system, is that vibrational quenching is larger than rotational quenching. I don't know any other system for which it is true. So, and if we have a look at even nu equals 3, it is also true, even for more excited vibrational states. And now, how does it compare with experiments? So this is the point of the experiment of Eric. And you see that there is quite a good experiment. And in fact, the value, the measured value by Eric is half of the Langevin limit. So, well, so you will say, so what? In fact, we have done close coupling calculation. It's a bit a black box. We have a good agreement with experiment, but what did we understand about the system? Not much. So what can? So we had a look at the model which were available. So you probably remember this very old semi-classical approach, which was used for vibrational cooling. If you see, for example, all the paper of Ferguson a long time ago. And it is based on the Landau-Teller model. And vibrational quenching is associated to the long-range repulsive part of the PES. And, well, it applies at high energy. So at low collision energy, more recently, Dashevskaya and Nikitin have tried to implement, to take into account quantum suppression, and they did another model. So this model is working very well, for example, for system. We tried it for helium N2, helium F2, helium H2. So it can predict the magnitude of the quenching cross-section for these three different systems. The good sorting, but it is based on one important hypothesis. It is that the long-range potential is negligible. So you can imagine that for calcium BACL+, it's not possible to use it. So we decided to look at the systems that we had treated previously, other vibrational quenching of ions. So BACL+, CH+, NO+, with different partner, and N2+. So already you see that one system is different from the other. It is helium CH+, because it decreases first before increasing again. So I will speak more about that later. And then if you want to try to predict the behavior of the vibrational quenching for all this system, you see that if you are in the resonance region, there is no way you will be able to predict, because you cannot predict all the bumps that you will get. So the Wigner regime is the only regime, the only interval of energy where or temperature, sorry, here, where you can expect to classify the magnitude of the quenching for all the system. So, if we have a look more carefully at all the features of this system, so you can see that we have classified all the system we have treated previously as a function of the well depths. So we have sorted in ascending order of the well depths. Then you have, I mentioned it before, but you can see that the vibrational frequency for most of these molecules were around 2000 centimeter minus 1, and the ACl plus was a lot smaller. Then you have also the relative mass, which is also in ascending order here. The polarizability, which is also in ascending order. And then here the imaginary part of the scattering length for vibrational quenching of the nu equal 1, j equal 0 state of the diatom. So if we compare all these things, we have, I didn't say it, but beta 0, beta 1, 0 is also increasing as a function of the ratio of the well depth divided by the vibrational frequency. And that's something which was also noticed by, for neutral system by Nikitin. And it is a crude measurement of the efficiency of the vibrational energy redistribution. At very low collision energy, of course, the long range play an important role, which is modeled by the Langevin formula, proportional to the polarizability, and to the relative mass, which is also important. So we define what we call a statistical capture rate constant. So in fact, if you look at all papers of Ferguson, you will see that he made the same hypothesis of splitting the process in two steps. A first step where you capture and form the complex, and the redistribution is then done inside the complex. So and we multiply it by the ratio dE over omega E. So this scheme relies on a statistical ansatz, which is valid for collision involving deep intermediate well at ultra low temperature. So as I say, divide the process in two steps. You form first a long-lived collision complex, and then it is followed by its fragmentation to produce a vibrational quenched diatomic cation. And so if we now represent the statistical capture rate formula for all the system we have treated, and here it is the close coupling value of the vibrational quenching, you see that it follows, there is a link. Apparently, from this, at least for these 5 systems, we can predict the efficiency of the vibrational quenching, knowing only one need to know the well depth of the complex, vibrational constant, vibrational frequency of the diatom, polarizability of the atom, and the relative mass. And from that, we can predict if it's going to be efficient or not. So you see that helium CH plus is the only one which is a bit outside this variation, but it was shown in our paper dedicated to this system that it is due to virtual state scattering, which is simply a way to say that there is a bond state which energy is nearly zero. So that was in 2016, and then we decided to see if it works for other systems, because five systems is possibly not enough to say that it is low. So we decided to take a vibrational frequency which is intermediate between the two. So we choose the ALO plus, and we varied the partner. So varying the partner allows us to vary the polarizability and to vary also, of course, the well depth, which is increasing also, and the relative mass. And you see that each time it's really linked. And so this work was done by Otoniel Denis Alpizar. He is one of my former PhD students, and he has a permanent position now in Santiago. So he calculated the 3 surfaces, and you see, so they are relatively similar, but of course, deeper and deeper. And now, this is what we get. So we have still a line, but it is not as it is not a straight line. We have still a strong correlation, but it is not a straight line. But again, we can predict the efficiency of the vibrational quenching for these systems by this simple law. Well, I think that I will not repeat what I said before. I will simply thank you for your attention and also all the collaborators involved in this study. Thank you.
I think it is important that ultra-cold atom has to be highly polarizable.
Yeah.
So helium or maybe other system of helium.
Yeah, they are not highly polarizable, no.
Yeah, they are not really.
Yeah.
They may not take this a lot of energy away.
Yeah.
It should be an isotropic interaction. That's maybe why it didn't really see
Well, yes, and also, but there, because in fact, what is difficult to see on this figure is that, in fact, you have many points in a small region because the vibrational frequency of the partner was always almost 2000. So it's difficult to really see if it is only linked to that or not. So there are several other systems that yeah. For example, I didn't have time to add it, but I did it also for another system calculated by Otoniel. It's helium CF+, and it follows also well the rule. So, well, it's not a straight line, of course.
Other questions?